If you're a heating and air conditioning technician or even a salesperson, what are the pros and cons for working for a large company? This is a super important question. I'm Scott Sullivan Bell, coming to you live for HVAC technicians, sales secrets on a perfect day to talk about sales and a perfect day to talk about you. So there's going to be a point in your career where you work for a company and it's smaller, and there's nothing wrong with that. Almost every company starts out of a garage or a backyard in the heating and air world. Fantastic. So first and foremost, I am not knocking any company, no matter their size. And I'm not going to sling mud, but I will tell you the truth. So let's talk about the cons. And I don't mean like cons in a negative thing, like a con man, but like the cons. When you work for a small company, sometimes the company will lack resources for marketing, for advertising, and for training. So that means that sometimes you're not busy year round. Sometimes that means that, you got to go to the supply house and parts are on consignment. And sometimes you can't get what you need because there's not enough money to go around. And once again, almost every company that I've been around that's large started this way. Sometimes there's no training. There's nobody to come in and help work with you. Maybe the owner's pretty good at one aspect of it. He's got a buddy or a friend, or she's got a buddy or a friend that'll come in and work with you. There's no set training schedule. Sometimes you just can't get your hands on equipment. Some manufacturers will sign an agreement with larger companies and say, we'll pull from your competitors for you to sign this agreement. And, it is what it is. Sometimes, and this is important for you to know, this is super important for you to know. Sometimes, when it comes down to it, the company's got to decide, do we add another person or do we advertise? And so there's the waffling back and forth. This is why you should join HVACTechSecrets.com. I'll give you the goods, not in the Facebook group, not in the YouTube channel. So let's talk about some of the pros. One of the pros is if a company's got money to advertise, you typically stay busy year round. Okay. There's a cost to this. Typically, if a company's larger and you're going to it, they're going to have a dedicated training platform. It may be a person. That's what I did for 10 years. I was that guy. I would go in and I would work with technicians and I would help them. I would work with salespeople. I'd work with the call center. Anybody who any of the 200 and something employees that needed help, that was my job, my role and responsibility to go and train them. It was either one-on-one or one-to-many. There was times where I would work with somebody in the call center. There's times where I work with everybody in the call center. There was times where I worked with one technician. There was sometimes where I worked with every technician. There was times where I'd ride with one salesperson or I'd train the entire team. So the reason I bring this up is, when there are resources, there's the ability for you to do things in other ways. And so the con of working for a small company is they may not have the resources that you need for marketing, for advertising, for training. The pros of a large company is there's money for marketing, advertising, training. But here's the thing, once again, not here to sling mud, but I'm going to bring you the truth. When you work on a large team, I don't care where it's at. I don't care who it is. I don't care the name on the side of the building. I have never not seen a company have a franchise player, a franchise technician, or a franchise salesperson, or even somebody in the call center who that is the dedicated person that gets the goods, right? So I can think of a lot of instances where companies have technicians that I've trained and the owners pulled me to a side and they're like, that's our guy. That's our golden guy. He's the one that runs all of the calls. And the guy's got fantastic numbers. And then you go to work there and you're like, why? How can that guy or that girl hit all of those numbers and be consistent at it? The truth is they're being fed leads, right? You got to get over it because that's the way the companies are. So you go to work on a sales team and you're like, why is that guy crushing it and killing it? Well, I know why the guy's crushing it and killing it, because they get the bulk majority of the leads. And what you need to understand, and this is going to hurt some feelings, this is for beer bragging rights. You're like, what? What do you mean beer bragging rights? Well, there's going to be a point where tech manager, sales manager, or business owner is standing at a bar and they're like, I've got this guy and here's the numbers that he does. So when I first started training technicians, it was a big deal to sell $2 million in a year. And I trained the first guy that I know of to do $3 million in residential replacement as a technician, right? $3 million. So I don't know what the magic number is. Let's say it's $8 million. Well, are there people who are good enough to sell $8 million in a year by themselves? Yes, but that pool is not that big, right? Chances are pretty good that that's a franchise That's a franchise employee, meaning that that's the guy or the girl that's going to get a bunch of the leads. Please understand, not bitter, just giving you the way of the world, right? Like, you've got to understand this. Like, if you're the big fish in a small pond and you go to jump into be the small fish in the big pond, and you're questioning, like, I see this guy and he just crushes these numbers. First and foremost, may have the skills, the talents, and the capabilities to do that. Second, may have most of the skills, talents, and capabilities to do that, but he's offset by the company because he or she is the franchise player and that's what they get. So if you're like, what are the pros and cons? Cons on smaller companies, they typically don't have the resources that they need for marketing, for training, and sometimes to get equipment and parts. Pros for a big company, they've got the money for the marketing, the training, and all the things that go along with it. But if you're like, hey, I'm going to make this jump, and you're in the interview process, I'm going to promise you, even if you ask, do you have a franchise employee? The answer is no, I don't. But the truth is, yes, they do. And behind closed doors, they'll talk about it with all the management team, but out with all the technicians, they won't. So this is why you've got to get really good with your own personal sales skills, talents, and capabilities, so that at some point, if it's you that's the franchise player, yay you, right? Fantastic for you. But realize there's pros and cons. Like, I've seen a lot of technicians go to a bigger company and actually make less money because they didn't understand the game that was being played. And I've seen guys that are go from a big company to a small company and not make the money that they did because they weren't fed leads. So if you're sitting here going like, hey, I'm thinking about switching companies, know that there's definitely some things that go into this. And if you're a business owner and you're like, Scott, you've just spilled the beans, I am not the first person to say this. Simmer down, right? I'm not the first person to say it. I'm not going to be the last, but I'll be the one. Like I said, I won't sling mud, but I'm going to tell you the truth. This is how it goes down in most large companies. Franchise technician, franchise salesperson, that person's going to get the bulk majority of the leads. So the business owner, the sales manager, the technician manager at a bar can brag and say, I've got a guy that does X amount of dollars, whatever that magic number is today, this year. There you go. You got one thing to do from here, just one thing. Find the subscribe button or the follow button, click on it, and every time I send a video, you'll get an update. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.